Ah, the symphony. Undoubtedly the crowning jewel of orchestral music. But in my time, the symphony in France was quite different from what it would later become. When I arrived in this fair land, the genre had yet to establish itself. But change was on the horizon. Allow me to emphasise with utmost modesty that my own contribution to the early French symphony's history remains underestimated. This oversight must be urgently rectified. Surely my compositions should stand shoulder to shoulder with those of my esteemed Parisian contemporaries, shouldn't they? But let us start at the beginning. First and foremost, it is important to understand that the symphony is a European phenomenon. The Italians can be credited with starting it when they began performing orchestral pieces at the beginning of operas in the early 18th century. Such a brief piece was called a sinfonia in Italy, meaning a sounding together. In France, it might have been referred to as an ouverture or a prélude. Soon, talented amateurs, often individuals of diverse professions such as doctors, pharmacists, accountants and merchants, formed associations to make music together at regular intervals, like they did in Bruges. Remember, to maintain discipline and ensure a certain level of proficiency, a few professional musicians were hired. This was not merely a leisurely pursuit. Several times a year, these associations held charity concerts, featuring the repertoire of sinfonia heard at the outset of those operas. These amateur societies often referred to themselves as harmony enthusiasts or philharmonic societies. They became places where many citizens first encountered symphonic music. Composers swiftly started writing music specifically for these societies, thus solidifying their importance. It was through one such society, the Confrérie van het Concert, situated in the Wolstraat of Bruges, where I myself discovered symphonic culture. Almost every week, my brother and I would attend their concerts, where we were treated to early Italian symphonies by Sammartini and the remarkable compositions of Johann Stamitz, a true luminary in this field. Stamitz was the individual who brought the symphony north of the Alps, laying the foundation for the German symphony. Towards the end of his life, Stamitz even ventured to Paris, where he was surpassed as a musical innovator, introducing the Parisians first-hand to symphonic culture. He became a sensation amongst the high aristocracy. The passing of the great Stamitz in 1757 was certainly mourned, as his demise was quite unexpected. However, it also marked the opening of a new era. The symphony flourished as a genre like never before, being practiced all across Europe, including in Bruges. In the summer of 1765, my very own Opus 1 was printed by the presses of Paris. It comprised a collection of 6 symphonies published by the esteemed Moria publishing house. These symphonies were dedicated to Louis-Jean-Baptiste Colbert, the distinguished great-grandson of the renowned Colbert, who served as a minister during the reign of Louis XIV, the Sun King. Colbert held the title of Marquis de Sangolais, and I had the pleasure of becoming acquainted with him through his wife, whom I provided with singing lessons. Continuing my musical endeavours, I published another collection of 3 symphonies in 1771, which I dedicated to François Alexandre Frédéric de la Rochefoucauld, the Duke of Liancourt. He was an eccentric nobleman who would soon rise to become one of the most influential politicians of his generation. The Duke possessed a magnificent residence situated on the southern bank of the River Seine. Over time, I managed to publish a total of 14 symphonies in the capital, an accomplishment of which I am particularly proud. My primary friend and competitor in the bustling Parisian musical scene was Gossec. He surpassed us all by publishing a remarkable 24 symphonies during the same period. François-Joseph Gossec, hailing from Flanders like myself, was born in a village in the Ardennes, but grew up in Antwerp, where he honed his craft. Coincidentally, he also married an Antwerp woman. Being 7 years my senior, Gossec had the privilege of working under the legendary Jean-Philippe Rameau before the war. When Stamitz arrived in Paris, Gossec had the opportunity to perform under his leadership. Oh, how I envied him. The chance to create music alongside such esteemed gentlemen must have been an absolute delight for both the ears and the eyes. Gozek truly became an exceptional musician, and I must admit that my first symphonies were influenced by his example. He possessed an amiable disposition, coupled with a dry sense of humour, but it was in his music that he truly shone with magnificence. As young musicians, we admired him greatly, particularly when he established a grand musical society in London known as the Concert of Amateurs. This orchestra comprised over 70 musicians, the majority of whom were enthusiastic non-professionals, as the name suggests, but it also included a significant number of professionals. The orchestra quickly reached an impressive level of skill, and from its inception, this Italian-inspired philharmonic became the primary venue in Paris for experiencing excellent symphonies. Recognising an opportunity, I swiftly utilised my friendship with Gozek to have my own compositions performed there as well. Until that point, my symphonies had been performed by musicians carefully selected by myself, with their expenses covered by the generous aristocrats who employed me. The orchestra, often comprised of just 15 or 16 members, proved to be somewhat limited in size. It became evident that Gozek's visionary approach of working on a grander scale held the key to the future. In 1769, coinciding with the inaugural concerts of the Concert of Amateurs, Gozek composed his groundbreaking 6 symphonies à grand orchestre. 6 symphonies à grand orchestre. It marked a significant turning point in his career. Inspired by Gozek's triumph, I returned to my writing desk, determined to create works that could rival his symphonies. The outcome was my Opus 4, which was published in March 1771 under the title 3 Symphonies for Grand Orchestra, dedicated to the Duke of Liancourt. I hope to present these compositions to French audiences at the Concert of Amateurs, with the ambition of conquering the city of Paris. Ah, the audacity! Could a humble lad from Bruges dare to achieve such a feat? Well, why not? If Gozek could, why couldn't I? Interestingly, during this time, Gozek published his works under the name Gozek d'Anvers, highlighting his Flemish origin as an exotic element in Paris. It added a touch of local colour and conveyed his pride in his roots. Surprisingly, it did not hinder his success. Consequently, I too proudly acknowledged my Flemish heritage on my scores. On the title pages for all my symphonies, I made sure to include the composer's name as Leemans de Bruges. This declaration of my origins, my connection to my city, its people, the cherished memories of my concerts in Wollestraat, my brothers, the majestic carillon, and my baptismal godmother who guided me to Paris, all served as a testament to my pride. Surely this affirmation would contribute to my own triumph. At least that was my fervent hope.